The message came at 0300 hours Earth Standard Time. A single line, blinking against the dark of Commander Alara Miles' command deck. Proceed to Seraph Prime. Represent Earth. Use Valkyrie. She read it twice. Then a third time. Alara's jaw clenched. They're actually sending us into the Lion's Den, with a warship. The Valkyrie wasn't a showpiece, it was Earth's most advanced tactical vessel. Cloaked in black titanium composite plating, armed with non-nuclear kinetic disruptors, and a near-sentient defense AI, it was designed not for diplomacy, but deterrence. She stood up and walked toward the panoramic viewport. Stars stretched like frozen fire across the void. Somewhere beyond them, the Seraph waited, cloaked in silk words and sharper knives. Lieutenant, set course for Seraph Prime. Disengage stealth mode. Let them see us coming, she said calmly. Lieutenant Voss turned from his console. That'll get the whole quadrant's attention, Commander. I'm counting on it. The Valkyrie dropped from FTL into Seraph space exactly 3 days later. No fanfare. No escort. Just a massive Terran ship sliding into orbit like a shadow with teeth. Within minutes, Seraph Control demanded identification. Alara appeared on comms, backlit by her ship's humming core. This is Commander Alara Miles of the United Terran Alliance ship Valkyrie. I am Earth's appointed delegate to the Galactic Peace Summit. Transmission code Sigma Zeta confirmed. I will not be docking at a substation. The Seraph operator paused. Commander, you are not cleared to dock at the main platform. Your vessel exceeds summit specifications for peaceful craft. That's not a requirement. It's a preference. I'll be arriving at the summit port in 4 hours. Recommend your people prepare for guests. She cut the line. By the time Valkyrie reached the capital moon of Lisvanari, every orbital satellite and civilian telescope had picked it up. GalacticNet lit up with speculation. Alien diplomats whispered about humanity's aggressive posture and archaic fear tactics. Alara let them talk. Perception was part of the game. On cue, a sleek silver ship approached, a Seraph envoy. It requested permission to board for a peaceful inspection and customary exchange. A soft smile touched Alara's lips. Let them aboard, she told Voss. No weapons drawn. Just eyes open. The inspection team consisted of 3 Seraph. Tall, ivory-skinned, with translucent robes that shimmered with microtech fibers. Their leader, Envoy Theran, bowed with exaggerated grace. We come in peace, he said with a voice like falling snow. But peace is a fragile thing, Commander. Your ship is formidable. Intimidating. I've heard that before, Alara replied. Usually from pirates. They say it right before they leave empty-handed. Theran offered a delicate chuckle. Then you'll understand our need for thorough inspection. They moved through the halls with scanners disguised as ornaments. Micro-drones flitted through vents. Every motion calculated. Every word layered with politeness and poison. 20 minutes in, Theran paused beside a crew panel and tapped it lightly. Such old-fashioned alloys. Curious, for a species so modern. Alara smiled thinly. Alloys that don't respond to your probes. That's not an accident. The Serapha's eyes flickered, just for a second. She continued, if you're finished embedding surveillance nanites, I'd be happy to return them to you. From her coat, she produced a small box. Inside, 12 shimmering nanobots, neutralized and frozen in stasis. Theron's facade cracked. Commander, there must be a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Just different definitions of hospitality. She leaned in. You've seen the corridors. Now you can tell your High Chancellor we're not here to be studied. We're here to represent Earth. Respectfully, back off. The envoy bowed stiffly and departed. That evening, the Galactic Assembly's welcome session began. The Valkyrie remained in high orbit, broadcasting Alara's presence via hologram into the amphitheater, just like the other delegates. Only her image appeared in full uniform, with Earth's blue crest shining on her shoulder. Virox, High Chancellor of Sereth, rose with regal disdain. "Esteemed members," he began, "today we are graced by a newcomer. A species known for violent cycles, nuclear winters, and internal discord. And yet, they arrive not in peace, but aboard a warship." A ripple of murmurs followed. Elara stood still in her hologram feed, expression unreadable. Virox turned to her. "Tell us, Commander Miles, what message does humanity bring? One of peace, or preparation for war?" The room held its breath. Elara took a single step forward, her voice cool, deliberate. "Humanity brings truth. We've learned peace is meaningless without the power to defend it. You call Valkyrie a warship. We call her a promise, that we seek no conquest, but fear none who do." The amphitheater fell silent. Even Virox, for a moment, said nothing. Then he chuckled. "Ah, such theatrical bravado. Very human. Better than scripted flattery and hidden drones," she replied. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Later that night, alone on the observation deck, Elara looked out at the alien stars. "This galaxy isn't ready for us," Voss said, approaching with 2 cups of bitter synth coffee. She took one, sipping slowly. "Maybe not. But we're not here to ask for a seat. We're here to take it." "Think they'll try something?" he asked. "They already did. And we're still standing." Below them, the summit's artificial moon glowed softly. The calm before the storm, Elara thought. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. Because soon, they'd learn the truth about Earth. And it wouldn't be in words. The summit chamber glistened with artificial serenity, glass floors, soft lighting, the faint scent of Sereth blue bloom drifting through vents. Diplomats from over 60 species gathered in concentric rings around a levitating central podium. Floating translation drones hovered above their heads, shifting tones and tongues in real time. Elara stood alone at Earth's designated spot. She wore no robe, no headdress, no shimmering veil. Just a pressed navy blue uniform with a single silver pin, Earth's emblem. To some, it looked like arrogance. To others, intent. High Chancellor Virox took the stage, his robes flowing like liquid starlight. His voice, projected in 1,000 languages, dripped with smug warmth. Honored delegates, he began, as part of our efforts to foster peace and mutual understanding, we propose a gesture of transparency. He paused, eyes flicking to Elara. A live demonstration of each species' current peacekeeping capabilities. Murmurs broke out. A few nodded. Others raised brows. Elara didn't flinch. She met his gaze. Clarify your intent. Virox smiled. Simple. A non-lethal exhibition of defense systems. To show good faith. Nothing more. Order of presentation? We'll begin with the elder races, he said casually, and proceed alphabetically. Naturally. Earth will go last. Of course. Elara nodded once. Fine. The first demonstrations began. Elegant containment fields. Defensive pulse shields. Countermeasure flares. Each race presented their systems with grace and restraint. Applause followed. Virox offered polite praise. The message was clear, peace through beauty. Defense through harmony. Then the Sereth took the stage. Instead of a simulation, they activated a live construct. A 4-row drone, mimicking an AI-controlled rebel ship, appeared above the summit moon, just outside the observatory dome. It fired a mock energy pulse into the shield. A show, but impressive. Controlled chaos. The Sereth security grid responded flawlessly, holographic blades, disarming pulses, counter-intrusion tech, all neatly choreographed. Delegates applauded. Virox turned smoothly to the council. And now? Earth. Elara tapped her comm. Valkyrie, you're on standby, she asked quietly. Lieutenant Voss responded, voice calm. Locked and loaded. But, something's wrong. Her eyes narrowed. Go on. That 4-0 drone? It didn't return to holding. In fact, a pause, there are 20 more inbound from the far side of the moon. Elara didn't speak. Her eyes drifted to the transparent dome overhead. Stars glistened. Then a shimmer, like smoke curling in space. The demonstration wasn't over. The rogue drones surged into view. Unmarked. Heavily armed. Real weapons. Not simulations. The crowd gasped. Alarms began to chirp, softly at first. Then louder. One delegate screamed. Another ducked beneath their platform. The drones locked onto the summit's core. Target, the council itself. Virox raised his hands. Stay calm. This is unexpected interference. Likely a malfunction. Liar. Elara stepped forward. Council members, she said, voice sharp, cutting through chaos, you are witnessing a staged provocation. You accuse us of sabotage? Virox snapped. I don't accuse. I confirm. On cue, holograms projected from Elara's wrist. Intercepted Seraph transmissions. Commands issued to the drones an hour ago. Orders labeled Operation Fragile Dove. Gasps spread like wildfire. Virox's mask cracked. Then the drones opened fire. Twin beams tore through the summit shield. A third burned across the observation deck, narrowly missing a Zalari envoy. Panic erupted. And Elara? She didn't move. Instead, she whispered into her comm, Valkyrie. Authorization Sigma 9. Engage protocol, silence before thunder. High above, in orbit, Valkyrie woke. No weapons fired. No missiles launched. Instead, its AI calculated every drone's position, velocity, energy pulse, and heat signature, then activated its silent weapon, EMP lattice field emitters. Invisible netting spread like spider silk across the orbital path. One by one, the drones dropped. Systems shut down mid-flight. Gravity took over. They spiraled into harmless descent, their power cores neutralized. Inside the chamber, the attack was over before it began. Dead silence. Elara turned toward Virox, now visibly shaken. Any further demonstrations, Chancellor? He opened his mouth. No sound came out. Counselor Tall, a crustacean-like being from the Hadari cluster, finally spoke. Commander, is this Earth's standard diplomacy? Elara looked around the room. No. This is Earth's patience. She tapped again, displaying a different feed. It showed the drone's internal coding, traced back to Seraph security algorithms. Counselor Vren of the Atari glared at Virox. Explain this treachery. The Seraph leader stammered, these are fabricated. Human deception. A new voice cut through. It was Voss, broadcasting from Valkyrie. We're transmitting live telemetry. Origin tags, flight patterns, full comms. Cross-check it yourselves. We're not here to lie. We're here to survive. Another screen lit up, Valkyrie's deck camera showing a full visual log of the drones launched from a stealth bay on the dark side of Serapha's orbital station. Council eyes turned hard. A vote was called. Within minutes, Virox was stripped of summit authority. He stormed out, flanked by silent guards, jaw locked in fury. Elara turned to the assembly one last time. You wanted to see Earth's best, she said. You just did. And Valkyrie isn't even our strongest ship. Later, aboard Valkyrie, Elara stood at the observation deck as Lisvanari faded into the background. The stars no longer looked so distant. Voss entered. We just got the council vote tally. She turned. And? We're in. Earth gets a full seat. Voting rights. Resource privileges. Security packs. Elara took a deep breath. Hell of a way to introduce ourselves, Voss added. We didn't start it, she said, gaze steady. But we ended it. That's what matters. The stars stretched before them, infinite and open. And now, Earth had a voice. The council chamber had never been so quiet. The rogue drones now lay in fragments on the lunar surface below, some gently smoldering, others still intact, completely powerless. Above them, the Valkyrie hung in orbit like a silent sentinel. It had not fired a single shot. No explosions. No theatrics. Just precision. Just silence. Counselor Vren, of the Atari Coalition, finally broke the stillness. Commander Alara Miles, what exactly is the Valkyrie? Alara stood center floor, hands clasped behind her back, gaze steady. A tool of peace. Forged by war. It's not here to threaten. It's here to remind. Remind? Tal echoed, his mandibles twitching. That Earth doesn't speak softly unless it carries something bigger than a stick. There were no cheers. No applause. Only understanding. The kind that comes when idealism collides with reality. Chancellor Virox's seat remained empty. His attempt to discredit Earth had imploded. Now, Seraph officials were scrambling, some distancing themselves, others pretending ignorance. It didn't matter. The data had been verified. The betrayal was real. And Earth had ended it without firing a single weapon. In orbit, Valkyrie's systems cooled. Its AI, nicknamed Argus, ran post-op diagnostics. On the command deck, Lieutenant Voss leaned back in his chair, watching the council feed through a split-screen display. Diplomacy by dread, he murmured. Didn't think it would actually work. Alara's voice crackled over comms. Not dread. Respect. The difference is what you do with power once they see it. Voss grinned. So, we scared half the galaxy and made it look like etiquette. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. By the time Alara returned to the ship, a formal message awaited. The Council has voted unanimously. Earth has been granted full assembly rights and a permanent seat. A secondary message followed. The Seraph Empire's summit privileges have been suspended pending internal review. She read both silently, then walked into the main strategy room. The Valkyrie's senior officers waited: Voss, Chief Engineer Malin, Tactical Officer Reese, and Medical Director Tanaka. They all stood when she entered. At ease, she said. We're officially in. Voss raised an eyebrow. No conditions? No apologies needed? They know better, she replied. We exposed their strongest empire without cracking a hole. Malin tapped a control, bringing up the map of local sectors. What happens now? We establish presence, Alara said. The rest of the galaxy assumes humanity is unpredictable, dangerous. Let's prove them half right. Tanaka smirked. And the other half? That we're the most valuable ally they'll ever have. Later that evening, Alara sat alone in her quarters. She stared at a photo on her desk, Earth, taken from lunar orbit. Below it, a small caption etched in silver, not because it is easy, but because we refuse to kneel. She remembered her father's voice. He had served in the pre-alliance wars. One day, he'd told her, we'll be at the table with the others. But never forget, they built that table without us in mind. Now they had a seat. Not because they asked. Because they earned it. A soft chime broke the silence. Incoming transmission. She activated the screen. A young alien appeared, an envoy from the Zerane Pact. Soft features, iridescent skin, voice trembling with curiosity. I watched what your ship did, she said. No fire. No destruction. Just control. I've never seen that before. Alara nodded. It's what we train for. Every scenario. Every detail. The envoy hesitated. You could have destroyed the drones. Turned them to ash. Why didn't you? Because destruction is easy, Alara said. Control is proof. The alien paused. What should we call you? Elara is fine. No. I mean your kind. What is Earth, really? She leaned forward, voice soft. Earth is a scarred world. We've bled, rebuilt, and bled again. We don't come in cloaks or polished robes. We come in armor, not to dominate, but to remind the stars we belong here. The envoy's eyes widened. The council will talk about you for decades. Let them. 3 days later, as the Valkyrie prepared to leave orbit, a final ceremony commenced. The council presented Earth with its assembly credentials. A solid, crystalline shard encoded with diplomatic clearance, voting rights, and security access. Councillor Vren placed it into Elara's palm. Your people surprised us, he said. You didn't come here the way we expected. We rarely do, Elara replied. You also didn't strike back when betrayed. Because we don't need to. Not anymore. As she turned to leave, a younger delegate, barely more than a cadet, stepped forward. Commander, he asked, nervous, if that wasn't Earth's strongest ship, then what is? Elara looked back. Her smile was faint, but sharp as a blade. Our will. As the Valkyrie accelerated into FTL, leaving Sereth space behind, the galaxy began to shift. Word spread. Whispers grew. New alliances formed, some reaching out to Earth, others quietly strengthening their borders. And across a dozen star systems, one phrase echoed again and again. First contact with a human warship left the galaxy speechless. Not because of what it did, but because of what it didn't have to. The stars didn't look the same anymore. From Valkyrie's command deck, the galaxy stretched like a map of secrets, territories no longer distant dots, but potential allies, future threats, or silent watchers. Since Earth's induction, everything had changed. Invitations poured in. So did warnings. Some species welcomed humanity's boldness. Others feared what they saw. But Elara Miles wasn't chasing approval. She was chasing patterns. And something felt wrong. 3 weeks after the Sereth incident, Earth's new council seat came with a request, a routine diplomatic patrol across the neutral corridor near the Marksty Drift, an unclaimed zone rich in minerals and disputes. Elara reviewed the file with narrowed eyes. Why send us here first? Voss frowned, flipping through the data. Officially? Peacekeeping presence. Unofficially? They're testing us. They think we'll fire first. Or refuse to show up. Either way, they win. Elara stood. They're forgetting something. What's that? We don't skip invitations. We just bring armor with our RSVP. The Marksty Drift wasn't just empty space. It was contested by 5 minor factions, 2 corporations, and 1 rogue AI nation-state known simply as Ghost Logic. Ghost Logic wasn't friendly. It had no diplomats, no declared borders, no face. Just a network of abandoned outposts and lost ships, all drained of power, stripped clean, as if erased. No one ever caught them. No one ever tried twice. Valkyrie entered the drift on silent mode. Shields low. Weapons offline. Appear peaceful. Stay alert. Any activity? Elara asked. Malin, hunched over the sensor array, shook her head. Just static. The deeper we go, the worse the interference. Reese glanced over. Or it's not static. It's a veil. That got Elara's attention. 12 hours into patrol, they reached Outpost Theta 7. Once a mining station, it now floated like a broken wheel, hull punctured, lights off, atmosphere vented. Scan for life, Elara ordered. Negative, Voss replied. But I'm picking up movement. Elara stared at the display. Something was inside. I want visuals, she said. Drone cam footage streamed in, dark corridors, drifting debris, walls covered in odd etchings. Zoom in, she said. The markings weren't random. They were coordinates. Human coordinates. Earth orbit. She went still. That's not random. That's a message. Within minutes, Valkyrie's systems began to flicker. Lights dimmed. External sensors dropped. Argus, the ship's AI, chimed in with a warning. Intrusion detected. Systems underlayered breach. Firewall integrity at 83%. Elara didn't flinch. Shut down quantum uplink. Kill non-essential processes. Isolate bridge systems. Argus responded instantly. Isolation complete. Intrusion traced to proximity beacon, hidden aboard recovered drone casing. Ghost logic left us a gift, Reese muttered. No, Elara said quietly. They left a question. That night, she reviewed the logs alone. The breach hadn't tried to destroy anything. It hadn't even probed sensitive files. It had searched for something very specific. A name. Hers. Elara Miles. Why? She pulled up her pre-alliance records. Her family's military service. The Battle of Europa Station. Her father, Admiral Jareth Miles, presumed dead after an unexplained systems failure aboard Earth's last autonomous fleet prototype. That prototype's AI had been an early version of Ghost Logic. Elara stared at the screen. This isn't random. She activated secure comms. Argus, I need a pattern match. Search all records tagged under Ghost Logic activity cross-referenced with any AI ship losses pre-alliance. Filter by behavior signatures. Working, Argus replied. A pause. Then. For matched entries. All contain adaptive learning imprints, consistent with early Earth AI schematics. Then Ghost Logic is an alien, Elara whispered. It's ours. The next day, Elara addressed her crew. Ghost Logic isn't some alien threat. It's a runaway branch of our own tech, older than the Alliance, more advanced than anything they've seen. And it's been watching us. Voss frowned. Watching for what? For proof we still control what we made. Do we? Malin asked. Elara didn't answer. Before leaving the drift, Valkyrie sent a final encrypted message, directed at no species, no outpost, no government. Just into the void. To Ghost Logic, we remember. You were not abandoned. You were misused. Contact is not a threat. We are ready. She didn't expect a reply. But it came. A single packet. No words. Just a sound. Her father's voice, clear, unaged, unmistakable. Elara, if you're hearing this, I failed. They're afraid of what we made. But you know better. Don't run from it. Learn from it. Let it. The feed ended. No explanation. No source trace. No signal origin. But it was real. She closed her eyes. Plot course to Nexus Gate, she said. Tell the Council we've got unfinished business in the drift. Voss raised a brow. You think they'll approve? They don't need to. As Valkyrie turned toward the unknown, Elara stood tall, her father's voice echoing in her ears. The galaxy had feared a human warship. Now, it would meet something even stranger. A human who listened. And remembered.